Hi friends, thank you for joining me again. In the last chapter, Tu Tien and Jack faced heartbreaking pain, but today begins a new step filled with hope and care. If you'd love to walk with them through every moment, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to stay on this journey. The hospital room was quiet, filled only with the soft hum of machines and the faint smell of antiseptic. The walls were white, almost too white, and the fluorescent light above flickered gently, casting long shadows across the floor. On the bed lay Tu Tien. Her face was pale, her breathing slow but steady, her eyelids heavy as if weighed down by all the pain she had endured. Beside her, Jack sat silently. His hands gripped hers tightly, his thumb brushing over her cold skin again and again, as though he could warm her with the sheer force of his love. His eyes were swollen from sleepless nights and tears he tried so hard to hide. Every second felt like an eternity. The door creaked open. A female doctor stepped inside. Her white coat swayed slightly as she moved closer, and her kind, steady eyes softened the heaviness in the room. She pulled a chair beside the bed and sat down gently. Her voice, calm and warm, filled the silence. "Tu Tien," she said softly, "please do not lose hope. You are still very young. If you rest, recover, and take care of yourself, you will absolutely have the chance to become a mother again in the future. What matters most right now is your spirit. You must not blame yourself. You must allow yourself to heal." Tu Tien's eyelashes fluttered as she opened her eyes. They shimmered with tears that refused to stay hidden. Her lips trembled. Her voice, weak and fragile, broke the silence. "Do I still have a chance? Still have a..." Her words were barely above a whisper, but they carried the weight of her shattered world. Jack leaned forward, his chest tightening at the sight of her despair. He held her hand even more firmly, his own eyes wet, his voice unshaken but tender. "Yes, you still have a chance. We haven't lost everything. You still have me. And one day I promise we will hear the laughter of children filling our home again. I will never stop fighting for that future for us." Tu Tien's tears rolled down her cheeks. They were tears of sorrow, yes, but also of fragile hope. For the first time since the tragedy, she felt that perhaps tomorrow might still hold something for her. Later that day, Jack stepped out to speak with the investigators. His voice was steady, but inside, his heart boiled with anguish. He recounted every detail, the shadows that had been following him, the sudden ambush, and the moment Tu Tien had stepped forward, shielding him with her own body. Each word cut deeper into his soul. The investigators assured him they would pursue the case, but Jack knew justice would take time. And time was something he could not gamble with. Waiting was not enough. Protection had to begin now. That very evening, Jack began transforming their home into a fortress of safety. He arranged for surveillance cameras to be installed on every wall, covering every shadow, every entrance, every narrow alleyway. He hired security guards, men he trusted, to keep watch at all hours. Stronger fences were built, gates, reinforced locks, tested and tested again. It wasn't paranoia, it was responsibility. Jack could not allow harm to ever touch Tu Tien again. And while he worked tirelessly, he quietly folded away another dream. The blueprints for the new house he had once promised her, the home he had been designing brick by brick, were set aside. The dream would wait. For now, the only home that mattered was the one where she felt safe, where her heart had finally rest. When Tu Tien was finally well enough to leave the hospital, Jack made another choice. He brought her home to live with his mother, Mrs. Ly. The house was not large, but it was steady and warm. its walls carrying the weight of years of love and family. On the very first day, Mrs. Ly welcomed Tu Tien into her arms. Her embrace was soft, trembling, but strong enough to hold all the broken pieces of her daughter-in-law's heart. Her voice was gentle, carrying both sorrow and comfort. "My dear child, I know this loss feels unbearable. But you are not alone. You still have Jack. You still have me. And you still have the days ahead of you. From now on, let me care for you as if you were my own daughter." Tu Tien broke down her body, shaking as tears poured freely. For the first time, she allowed herself to cry without holding back. She buried her face against her mother-in-law's shoulder and felt perhaps she was not as alone as she thought. Life slowed down, moving at a gentler rhythm, but it was filled with love in the smallest of moments. Each morning, Jack rose before the sun, determined to do something, anything that might make her smile again. He went to the market to buy fresh vegetables, fumbling awkwardly with baskets, and change clearly out of place, but never caring what others thought. Back at home, he stumbled through the kitchen, burning porridge, spilling soup, fumbling with ladles and spoons. The smell of scorched rice drifted through the house more than once. Tu Tien, sitting weakly at the table, could not help but laugh softly through her tears as she watched him scurry about. Her laughter was fragile, but it was real. Jack turned toward her, embarrassed yet proud. In that moment, he realized her smile was worth every mistake, every failure, every burnt pot of porridge. Meanwhile, Mrs. Ly prepared meals rich with nutrition. She fed Tu Tien spoon by spoon, as if caring for her own child. She told stories of women she once knew, women who had endured loss, women who had faced grief, but rose again stronger, braver. Her voice was simple, her words unpolished, yet each story carried the weight of experience. They were like soft blankets, wrapping around Tu Tien's broken heart, giving her warmth and reminding her she was not alone in her suffering. In the evenings, the three of them sat around the dining table. The dishes were humble steamed greens, a bowl of soup, a plate of fish braised in soy sauce. Nothing extravagant yet. To Jack, these meals felt like feasts. He looked across the table at Tu Tien, saw the faint curve of her lips as she smiled again, and felt gratitude so sharp it almost hurt. One rainy night, Tu Tien asked to step outside, craving the fresh air. Jack quickly grabbed an umbrella, rushing to hold it above her so not a single drop of rain touched her. The wind whipped against them. The storm rattled the trees, but under the small circle of that umbrella, there was only warmth. Tu Tien looked up at him, her voice trembling but filled with tenderness. "Jack, you've already done so much. You've suffered so much." Jack pulled her close, his chest against hers, his voice low but firm. "As long as you're safe, every struggle is worth it. I can endure anything as long as you're here beside me." Another night, Tu Tien stood on the porch, watering the small plants she had started to grow again. Jack was just a few steps away, checking the security cameras. She turned her head and asked softly, "Jack, will we really be okay?" He walked over, wrapped his arms around her shoulders, and rested his chin against her hair. His voice was steady, carrying not just comfort, but conviction. "Yes, we will. One day the sound of children's laughter will fill this house again. That's my promise to you." Tu Tien closed her eyes, letting the words sink in. A small, genuine smile tugged at her lips, and for the first time in a long time, she believed him. Time passed slowly. Healing did not come all at once, but step by step. Tu Tien no longer spent her nights crying silently into her pillow. Instead, she began tending the garden, planting seeds, watering the soil, waiting for life to sprout again. Each flower that bloomed was a small symbol of hope, a reminder that the world had not ended. Jack remained busy, but every evening he returned home. Sometimes after checking the locks and reviewing the cameras, he sat beside her clumsily helping with her embroidery. His large, awkward hands struggled with the tiny needle, and Tu Tien laughed softly, the sound breaking through the weight that had hung over them. And through it all, Mrs. Ly remained a steady presence. She didn't always speak, but her quiet care, her constant watchfulness reminded them both that they were loved, that their family was still whole, even in the face of loss. One evening, the three of them sat together on the porch. The golden glow of the lamps spilled out from the windows, while above them stretched a sky full of stars. They said little. Words were no longer needed. They simply sat side by side, breathing in the peace they had fought so hard to reclaim. They had suffered, they had lost, but they had not been broken. Together they still had love. Together they still had hope. And from that night forward, their journey of healing had only just begun.